Hey guys, it's Scott, one of the regulars here at GB's Fishing Link, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 lures that have worked for me so far this summer. Coming in at number 5, and keep this in mind that this is just what's worked for me, and you might have mixed success on it, but in terms of what I've used and what has worked, these are my top 5. Anyways, just hooked myself. Starting off at number 5, we got a chatterbait. This is a Z-Man chatterbait. The reason I like to throw these is because you'll have the fish, like especially the bass, that are gonna sit on the edge of those drop-offs where there's shade. And especially if you're fishing from the bank, something like a chatterbait is gonna be something that you can drag along that edge and sort of call them out, get them to come, because this little blade right here is going to be wiggling back and forth. And my favorite thing to do with it is if you sort of just slow roll it, then give it a couple twitches, as you're slow rolling it. Those twitches is going to be what the bass really are going to keen in on, and that's when you're going to get most of your strike. Guys, and coming in at number 4 for me is the drop shot rig. So you've got your main line coming down to a snap swivel. Then you've got your EWG hook. You've got another swivel. And then some, I guess you could call it leader line going down to your weight. And what this is gonna do is allow you to fish a certain depth off the bottom. So especially when we've got like these rainstorms coming in, or when the visibility isn't as good, especially down near the bottom where there's mud and dirt floating throughout the water. This is gonna keep you just above all that dirt. Got about a foot, maybe 1.5 leader. It's gonna keep you that far off the bottom. And something like that's a Zoom Super Fluke, I think. That's gonna keep you off the bottom. It's gonna mimic the shad in the lake. You could also throw like a ribbon tail worm, something like that. All right, and the way you're gonna wanna fish this is, instead of like the chatterbait, just giving it, maybe a couple hops, or, changing like elevation. This, for the most part, you're gonna wanna keep it one depth, because a lot of the time if you give this hops, this will sort of nosedive when your weight starts sinking back to the bottom. And that isn't really gonna be, the most natural action. That might turn a couple bass that you see away. So what I like to do instead of that, to give it variation, is different speeds. So instead of moving my rod tip up, I'll change the speed that, I'm reeling it in. So you can go from slow rolling it to, going a little bit faster to mimic fleeing bait fish, or you can dead stick it, you can leave it for a minute and just let it sit there. I mean, there's a whole ton of different things you can do. And with the finesse worm, that's gonna do the same thing. With the finesse worm, you can sort of give it a couple hops, because that might mimic, a worm falling throughout the water column. Another thing the drop shot rig is good for is gonna be your crappie, your warmouth, stuff like that in the lake. And here are some of the crappie / warmouth baits that I have. My favorite is this one right here. Now, I don't remember the name of this one, but I'm sure anything that looks like this, it's just a slender body, sort of paddle tail. And second favorite is probably these. They're crappie magnets. It's just a stick bait with a split tail. It's absolutely tiny. You could probably make these out of any leftover, Senkos or anything you have like that. And but I mean, I've caught warmouth crappie on all these type of things in here. All I would say is fish under the matted sort of vine stuff that you got on the lake, and under the or not under, but next to like falling down trees, or stumps, stuff like that. All right, guys, and coming in at my number 3 spot is gonna be the lipless crankbait. Now, in terms of what this does, it's gonna be a lot like the chatterbait. It has the rattles in it. So this is again gonna call those fish out from wherever you're fishing, you know, the drop off, right in front of the drop off, just beyond the drop off, somewhere like that. But the thing about this is you can fish this straight off the bottom if you need to. So with the chatterbait, for the most part, you're gonna wanna keep that off the bottom because you're not gonna get the action you want. It's just not gonna do what you want it to off the bottom. But the lipless, you can jig this off the bottom. You can rip it in quickly. Anything that's gonna get those rattles going in the water is what you want to do with this. And I've caught numerous fish off of this. And this is gonna be the bait that if you haven't caught a fish all day and you're just trying to get something, this is what I would throw. Because this is, I mean, you can catch anywhere from a half-pound bass on this up to, you know, 5-6 pounder. And, you know, this one is just a bluegill pattern one. I'm not sure what company makes this. The logo's all rubbed off, but that one's sort of a perch, you know, green sunfish type of pattern. We got this one, which is a Cotton Cordell Super Spot. This I think was like $2.50 at Walmart. It's in the Sexy Shad pattern. This one, for the most part, is a lot louder than that one. I don't know why that is, but it is louder. So there's that one. And then I got this one, which is a bluegill, sort of green sunfish pattern one. I got this one at Ollie's, I think, for $2, so that was a great deal. And this one has a lot louder rattles. You're not going to catch as many fish on this one. The fish you do catch are going to be bigger because, you know, the larger profile. All right, and coming at my number 2 is the shaky head. And this, for the most part, you're gonna want to fish and drag directly off the bottom. So you're gonna want to throw it out. You're just gonna want to let it sink all the way to the bottom. And it'll sit about like that in the water column. Or not the water column, it'll sit just about that off the bottom. And you sort of just slowly drag it across. It'll kick up a little bit of dirt, you know, cause a commotion. You can give your rod tip, you know, some wiggles to the side and that'll shake it, you know, hence the term shaky head. And what I've found is a lot of the time, right after I give it a, not a super big hop, but a hop, you know, maybe 6 inches off the bottom, this is gonna draw a lot of strikes right then. And a lot of the time they'll eat it straight from the front and they'll grab that hook and that's the first thing they're gonna grab rather than them, you know, grabbing the back all the way to here and not grabbing the hook. Sometimes you can get your worm torn up that way, but it doesn't always have the best hookup ratio. A lot of the time you're gonna get them to bite the back of it, but you know, this is gonna be something that, you know, it's a larger profile, so they're gonna be looking for a bigger meal on, you know, some days. Some days they might be looking for smaller ones, but for the most part in the summer they're gonna be looking for bigger meals so that they don't have to hunt as much in the warm water. And you can throw anything on it. I mean, this is a striped king finesse worm. You can throw a ribbon tail. You can throw like a Senko strike. These are striped king shimmy sticks, I think. So anything like that, you know, trench hog. You can throw a crawl. Just about anything on a shake head, but my favorite's gotta be the finesse one. All right, and before we get to our number 1, I'm actually gonna have a couple honorable mentions. And the first one is gonna be the hollow body frog. This is a classic summer bait, as most of you probably know. But the thing I found at GB's Lake is that there's not a ton of, you know, lily pads or vegetation you can fish it on. You've got like the left side that's next to the stable that's got all the gates. Then on those gates there's some cover that sits on top of the water. that you can drag this through. I've gotten a couple strikes on it so far, but for the most part, there's not a ton of places at GB's to fish it, but this is a great summertime lure. So if you're fishing anywhere other than GB's Lake, I'd, try that. I've got the black for, the days where it's a lot sunnier. This is gonna contrast with, you gotta think about the bass are looking up. So they're gonna see, bright lights, and this is the black bottom's gonna contrast with it. But on days where it's, a little bit cloudier and the sky's darker, you want to throw something with like a white belly. And you just throw this out, it sits on top of the water. A lot of them come with this cup lip, so you sort of fish it like a popper. You can walk it like a walking bait. But it's gonna, these are gonna mimic either frogs or dying bait fish that are on the surface. And you can throw these at the smaller part of the lake up top where there's all those trees that hang over on the side of the lake. You can throw that up there, try to skip it under the trees, and you might be able to get a reaction strike just like that too. All right, our next honorable mention is going to be a buzz bait. It's gonna sort of do the same thing as a frog, but you can't really stop these. You can, but they're gonna sink. But if the bass are huge into reaction bites that day and you've noticed that, and you stop getting strikes on like your lipless or your normal crankbait, whatever, you can start throwing this, and maybe they might be in the top water mood, you never know. But yeah, that's my number 2 for honorable mentions. And my third honorable mention, my last one, is gonna be a deeper diving crankbait. This is a Bait Labs Strike Shad, I think. And this dives between 9 and 12 feet, I believe. Let me see, hold on. I think I have it written on this one. Yeah, between 9 and 12 feet. And so this, you're gonna be able to get out to those drop-offs, and you can drag this and cross those drop-offs. It'll create a little bit of water displacement. It has the rattles, but they're not as loud. So if, they're not they're sort of in the middle, they're not really going off reaction strikes, and they're not necessarily going for finesse, this can be a good alternative. Alright guys, and now time for the number 1. And my number 1 for me to fish in summer at GB's Fishing Lake is the jig. Now, I know what you're thinking, there's a bunch of different types of jigs. My favorite's gonna be the casting jig, because you can get some good casting distance with it. The head isn't so, wide that wind will impede your casting, and you're gonna be able to get these far. You can fish it just like a football jig. You can hop them along the bottom. That's my favorite thing to do. You just let it fall all the way to the bottom, give it a couple hops, and this skirt is gonna pulse when you do that. And the amount of strikes that I've gotten on this thing and fish that I've caught is why this is my number 1. I've probably caught, 5-6 fish already this summer. And I only go 2 times a week. And but this is the bait that I've thrown the most and gotten the most bigger strikes on. So this is a natural color. You'll throw this whenever the water clarity is pretty good. And I've got a black and blue jig. You're gonna want to throw this for the most part when the water is murky, because this is gonna, might seem a little counterintuitive, but they're actually gonna see this a lot more in that murky water rather than something like, I don't know, a white, or especially a dirt color like the other one. And another alternative, that if you don't want to throw the blue for that little bit of blue color, you can just throw a straight black. And both these jigs are by Stanley Jigs. This one right here, this is by Strike King. This one has the rattles on the bottom. If you could find a jig that has the rattles, I would get that one too for those murky water days. And the last one I got is a Arky jig. This one I think goes with $2 at Walmart, but it's got a little bit of that natural, but it's also got, these bright orange. And believe it or not, this is what's caught This is what's caught me the most fish, and I actually caught a 5-pounder. I'll put that on the screen if I can. I caught a 5-pounder on this, I think, a week and a half ago. So this jig has been the one that's worked the best for me. And the trailer I use on the natural colored ones is, let me get it out. The Straight Cream River Bug. And this is the green pumpkin. And then the Black Craw trailer, I don't have a pack of them, but it's the Zoom Super Salt Z Craw. This is a little bit bigger of a presentation than the other ones, you know, pull out a couple bigger fish. Let's see. And then for the black and blue one, I've got, for the black and blue one, I've got the Berkley Havoc Pit Boss Jr. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Make sure you head over to my YouTube channel and subscribe, like the video, and comment if you'd like to. Thank you all for